emboldened by the success of the past 8 years, progressives are now calling for marginal tax rates in the range of 80%. In other words, 80 cents on the additional dollar. Not on the first dollar, but once you hit a certain scale, 80 cents on the dollar tax to the government. We also have in Thomas Piketty, the most influential progressive economist in the world, the call for a 2 to 5% annual wealth confiscation tax. And his term confiscation, confiscatory taxation, to him is a compliment. You can't accuse him of confiscatory taxation. That's his term. He embraces it. And his point is, he says, I admit that the government may not get a great deal of revenue from these taxes, but he says, that's okay, because our purpose is not actually to get the revenue. It's actually to reduce the concentrations of wealth themselves. In other words, we want to bring these big estates down. We want to take it. We don't want to see them in our society. That's the purpose of our policy. Now, the reason I tell you all this is because I could be attending seminars at AEI and the Hoover Institution till the cows come home, telling me about how when tax rates are increased, government revenues actually decline, the Laffer curve. Or you might hear about how regulations deter incentives. Or you might hear about why policies that are being implemented do not have their intended effects. Again, from the confinement center's rather elemental point of view, this is all pure bullshit. Because the people who are implementing these policies don't care about those macroeconomic effects. It's kind of like saying if you say to thieves, don't go and rob the bank, because this will reduce the incentive of people to work in a bank. Depositors will be deterred from having confidence in the banking system if you keep ripping off banks. The gross domestic product will decline if bank robbery becomes something that's systematic. The bank robber doesn't care about any of this. All he looks at is to say, banks are where the money is. If I can get a hold of that money, I've achieved my purpose. I don't care about anything else. Now, listening to this, it may occur to you at first glance as a sober American, what is DINESH even talking about? Why is this even a danger to me? Who would even think of doing this? And don't these people love America? And how can America have reached this point? So I want to, in just a few minutes, and then I'm going to open the door to questions, I want to pivot and give a little different understanding of American politics than you're normally accustomed to hearing. A view of American politics that begins with those elemental human motives I mentioned earlier, which I think are actually the key to understanding how people operate. So now, I want you to imagine a guy who works really hard, adding up numbers all day, cleaning office floors, anywhere in the country, in LA or Boston, and he's finished a hard day of work and he's going home. And his home is underwater, and he's got some credit card bills, and he's feeling stressed, and he's working hard, and very frustrated. And he leaves his office, and he's walking home, or going to his car, and then he looks at a restaurant with a glass window, and inside he sees all kinds of people. And there are people just like him, except they seem to be doing great. You see limos pulling in and out, pretty girls going in and out, $40 steaks being served, a lot of wine being poured. And this guy goes, what the heck? What's going on here? Why do they have all that while I am struggling? Do I work less hard? No. Where's my American dream? What is it that they have that I don't? Now, this is a very interesting psychological moment, because it is the moment at which we as humans drop into that most familiar of emotions, very powerful emotion, but an emotion very rarely talked about, which is the emotion of envy. Emotion of envy. We hear all this stuff about greed. Greed is actually kind of out in the open. Greed is usually tempered by fear. People on Wall Street are super greedy, I admit it. But their greed is tempered by fear. Their greed for gain is tempered by their terror of loss. And the two act as a kind of check one upon the other. Envy is one of those low, disgusting human emotions. It's especially degraded because it is so secret. Have you ever heard heard anyone ever admit to being envious? People don't even admit it themselves. And envy is the worst of all human vices because it actually has no positive aspect to it whatsoever. Most vices actually have a positive aspect. Anger. If you're angry with the right person for the right reason at the right time, anger is a good thing. Jealousy is sometimes bad, but the root of it is actually pretty good. And by the way, jealousy is not as the same as envy. Jealousy is the opposite of envy. Jealousy is being angry at being deprived of something that is yours. Envy is being angry at being deprived of something to which you have no right whatsoever. Case in point, Othello. Contrast Othello with Iago. Othello is jealous because he thinks his wife is having an affair. He's wrong, she's not, but if she were, he'd be right to be angry. Othello feels deprived of something to which he has a right. Iago is envious for no reason whatsoever. In fact, at one point Iago says of Cassio, he has a daily beauty in his life that makes me ugly. He doesn't. Iago didn't take it from him, but he hates him, and he wants to destroy him. Envy. Now, with envy also comes a second factor. So I'm going back to this guy in front of the restaurant, feeling this emotion of envy. Now, envy, by the way, is not emulation. Envy is not, hey, those guys are doing really well. I should go back to school. I should get a degree. I should work harder. I should learn from them. That's not envy. Envy is, I would like to pull myself up, but if I can't, it sure would be nice to pull those guys down. Envy actually takes more pleasure in pulling the other guy down than in pulling yourself up, which we all know is kind of hard. Now, envy then transmutes itself not only into hatred of that person, but very strangely it transmutes itself also into a kind of self-hatred. Why? Because in envy, you begin to realize that the other guy may be successful not because he's cheating you, or not because the rules are rigged in his favor, but because he's performing better than you. In other words, it occurs to you that the reason that guy is successful is he started a business and you didn't. He produced products that people want. You didn't. He thought of his customers' welfare. You didn't. So in other words, envy produces first, I hate that guy, but then a second idea, which is very dismaying, is that the reason that guy actually is more successful than me is because I suck. So this is a very troubling thought. And while the people are stewing in their juices and feeling this way, along come a whole group of, well, let's just call them community organizers. And the community organizers have a plan, and they also have a remedy. The plan is actually very simple. The plan is, hey, listen, my friend, the first thing to do to make you feel better is we need to reinterpret your suffering. So you're not actually envious. You're righteously indignant. And the reason you're righteously indignant is that those guys have been stealing from you. Their wealth is actually your wealth that they have appropriated. They've appropriated super cunningly through Wall Street schemes and cronyist capitalist boards that have given money to CEOs. There's a whole bunch of clever techniques, but don't worry about those techniques. The bottom line is you just have to realize that's your stuff, that's your furniture, and it's sitting in their house. We are going to take it back for you. To do that, you don't have to do anything except vote for us. You have to empower us to go get their stuff. We will use the power of the state to accomplish that goal. And you will feel really good about it because you should think about it not as theft. We're not converting you into a thief. They're the thieves. You are merely helping us to restore stolen goods. Now, this is the argument. And this is the political temptation that produces an alliance. But the alliance isn't just between the community organizer and the citizen. Two other groups have to be imported at this point academic class and the media. Because theft schemes in a democratic society don't work unless they are strongly supported by powerful cultural institutions, raising the question of why would those institutions want to do this? Why would they want to collaborate in this theft? The short answer to that, I'm writing a book about this, and the longer answer will be delivered, but the short answer is really simple. We have in our society two classes of people. On the one hand, I would call it the entrepreneurial, wealth-creating class. And on the other hand, the class of, I would call it, the knowledge industry, the men of letters, the people who are actually really smart, but they're not smart at entrepreneurship. They're smart at doing something else. In fact, those were the people who had the power historically before the entrepreneurs showed up. These are the aristocrats, the people who, you think of people in the French court. Were they stupid people? No. Did they produce anything? No. But they did produce something. They produced things like flattery. So you'd have the prancing prince and the dauphin walking around, and there was a whole group of flatterers whose job it was to increase the self-esteem of the French royalty. They were really good at that. Then there was a whole group of jugglers and entertainers who also were really clever and talented. So the point I'm trying to make is that the knowledge class is not untalented. Obama, to be a little frank about it, doesn't know how to make an iPhone. He can't even put up a website. Right? So he's not good at capitalism. He's never really run a company. He's never even really had a real job. But it's a great mistake to think Obama is untalented, period.